What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of today's live stream. I've been doing this thing where I'm trying to make more YouTube content just for a week, not for too long, and I'm trying to do a live stream every day. And at first, I said there was a specific time I was going to do the live stream, but I see now that live streams require me to be in a more certain mood, and I also need to have a purpose of the live stream. So, what is the purpose of this live stream? It is to talk about how COVID is going to affect the usage of the internet. And first off, holy shit, we are going through something right now, and okay, I don't want to come off the wrong way. I am not excited about going through a pandemic, but I will say that I am incredibly excited that the whole world is going through something together. This isn't something that is just happening in one country. This is something that everyone of all cultures, no matter what language they speak, is going through. As humans, we are collectively going through something together in a way that hasn't happened in memorable ways for generations. And that is so fascinating to me. But don't take that the wrong way, because it's not like I'm excited about a pandemic. It's serious, and we have to cause actual changes in the way that we live. But okay, to give you some more positivity about this strand of coronavirus was discovered less than 6 months ago. Can you even, think about that for a second? Within 6 months, most of the world has heard about this, and every single government that exists has heard the name of this virus, this new strain of coronavirus. And I understand that it's a disease, and that sucks. But also, it hasn't even been a year. And our human population has shared so much information with so many of us. We live in a time where this is even possible, and that is amazing, because most of our parents, their parents, they never experienced that. It is amazing that all of these countries can be working together on something, okay? So I need to not rant about that and get back on topic here. The idea is, what is gonna happen to the way people use the internet? Because any of you listening right now, we are all in a position where there is a huge wave, a tidal wave of change of usage. This means you can create products that help people. You can create YouTube videos that suddenly grow much faster than however it was a couple months ago. There is about to be a great deal of change, right? So let's talk about that. What ways are things going to change? Because in a lot of the world now, there is a huge focus to isolate yourself and to stay inside. So everything I'm sharing now is assumptions, and I want you guys also comment in the chat, share your assumptions about how people are going to use computers and their phones and social media. Right now, obviously, everyone's freaking out. This is still new, but the reality is a lot of us are going into some kind of isolation, not distance or not going outside very much. So basically what this means is you pick individuals who you will be in close contact with, and you forcefully are forming a community where you have to be around people more, and you can't go outside as much, because that's the reality of what's happening. It's not that everyone's just going to be alone and is literally going to be alone in their rooms and lonely. People are picking groups to stay with. That's what's happening, right? Families are choosing to stay together in isolation instead of individually in isolation, and friends as well. That's already happening here. People are talking about this, right? I live in Nicaragua, by the way, team with Irving. And Dog Sitter Life, what's up, Rita? Good to see you. Says more online shopping, more indoor activities such as YouTube. That's what I assume as well, for sure. Everything related to computer usage should basically just increase, right? one thing I do want to say is right now we are still in this initial phase where everyone is still getting used to this change, but it's not going to be just a thing that is over in a week. Like, we will have to be more isolated, at least for enough of a period of time to kind of get used to that, right? And at this point, I think that is when there's going to be more of an increase in kinds of information related to online income. I'm very confident that this whole event will cause an increase in interest in online income, but I'm not confident that is going to happen immediately or quickly. Just because people in their nature, like, they freak out first, and then as time progresses, more and more people have the chance and the time to reflect, and also the necessity. Like, a lot of people just lost their jobs. They're in situations where they don't know if they're going to be able to pay their bills. This is real. Like, people are going through this. I know people who've been laid off and don't have work now, right? Especially, like, I come from a scene of people in the US of, like, retail workers and that kind of thing. I worked for Starbucks for a while, and Starbucks treats people really well, but I feel very confident that in the future there will be a huge influx in online income interest because of these events. But I have no idea about how long that will take to start happening, right? Because right now I don't think that that's really happening. Like, people are more talking to people they care about and purchasing things that they are scared they won't be able to purchase, and isolating themselves, right? This is all super new, and there are also a bunch of people who are just hearing about it, but they haven't actually started to adopt that policy yet. So it's still really new, and that's why I'm pretty sure that it's going to take a while. But that's why it's also good to talk about this stuff, because there's stuff we can do. We can make YouTube videos and these kind of things, knowing that interest is probably going to increase over the next couple of weeks at an abnormally high rate. So if you're still a person who's not taking this super seriously, to give you some perspective, okay, I live in Nicaragua. I live in Managua. And in Managua, 2 years ago, there was a political event, and there were protests, and there was violence, and people were shot and killed, okay? The U.S. has had a level 3 advisory about coming to Nicaragua. This means reconsider travel. The U.S. considers there's 4. Like, 1, which means, like, it's not even irrelevant. 2, just, maybe there's something you should be aware of. 3, think about going somewhere else if you can. And 4, do not go. Right? There's not that many places that are 4. Okay? Just for some perspective, like, historically. And like I just told you, there was this event where I live, right? And Nicaragua is level 3. The U.S. now changed this and has declared that all international travel is level 4. So this literally means that they are saying that you are in as much danger going to an airport in your own country as you are going to the most violent places in the world. Really think about that. And that's not the only event that shows the seriousness of what's happening or what's about to happen, what people are about to go through if they haven't yet. For me, it's an odd situation because I'm in a country right now that was one of the last countries to have cases. And it's happening here. Like, yesterday there was a first case, but it's kind of hard to tell. Like, in the US, I was traveling there, like, I got back here like 2 weeks ago, right? And when I was traveling in the airports, I remember thinking that there was going to be a lot of craziness in the airports because of COVID and that kind of thing. But then when I actually went to the airports, I just saw more people in masks, and like I wasn't asked where I had been or anything else. The wait times were a little bit longer, but this was only like 2 weeks ago. Not even actually. This was 9 days ago. Wow, time flies. Holy crap! And it's changed completely in that 9 day period of time, right? Like now, the reality is that there are situations where citizens won't be able to return to their home countries. That's basically what the U.S. just stated, is that citizens from the U.S. shouldn't expect that they're going to easily be able to get back into the country anymore. And to really strongly encourage returning as soon as you can, staying where you are in a long-term way, or that's it, basically. Not leaving in the first place, right? Like, this is insane. Nothing, like, you have to understand, this kind of thing hasn't happened in our generation or the previous generation. Like, this is unfounded. We are all going through something crazy. And this is going to affect how people use the internet and how people express themselves. So let me look at the chat again real quick. Yo, Paul! Awesome. Glad. Thanks for joining. He says, seriously, I'm at home right now, can't go to work, and I'm happy I don't have to go and risking my health. Yeah, gonna watch lots of YouTube videos. So I got a question for you, man. Oh, whoops. I got this fancy new microphone. Look, it's got an arm. It does stuff. How do you think people are gonna use the internet more? Like, because right now, people are basically, a lot of them are gonna be stuck at home most of the time, right? What's this going to do? What are people going to be more interested in? Is it going to be specific subjects? I feel like it's going to be specific subjects at first, but then with more time, it's just going to be a total increase in internet usage. Wait, okay, let's see if there's anything Google Trends wise. Oh, look what I can do, guys. I got fancy. I can press this button, and then, wait, I got to fix this. Boom. Look at that. Okay, cool. So now I can do a live stream where I'm talking to you guys like this, and then when I want to show you something on the computer, I just go like that, and it's instant. Isn't that cool? It just flips. It actually inverts the hand, which is kind of, oh no, it doesn't. Cool, right? So let's look at Google Trends. Okay, how do you think we can identify this trend of more internet usage in general? How do we do that, right? Because, I mean, we could obviously look at COVID. We could just see for people searching COVID. Yeah, so basically this period of time is irrelevant. We need the past 90 days. Wow. That's insane. That's such a short period of time. Oh, wow, okay, so that actually matches with when I was in the airport, and it didn't seem to matter that much. That was here. I flew back on March 10th. So that was literally, holy shit. Oh, God. This kind of represents... Ah, wow, that's really interesting. I was expecting it to be more, like, there to be more comparable interest here. Because even in February, this is, like, this part right here, that's a month ago. So that means as far as Google's concerned, COVID basically didn't exist search-wise. But you can't, with Google Trends, you can't ever just search, oh, I just realized that my portrait, wow. I just realized my portrait is covering the most useful part of the graph I was just talking to you guys about. Here you go, I'm going to move myself up there. There we go. This is the graph that I was talking to you guys about. And you can see how, like, okay, so this is, where's the month ago point? March, so February 19th is 1 month ago. That's right here. So this huge increase in activity basically started, as far as Google's concerned, let's see. There was slight bumps here, slight here, but still never past 1. So as far as Google's concerned, let's say 3 was a noticeable increase. That was February 26th. Okay, so that was 20 or about 26 days ago, so almost a month. But then it was growing like pretty linearly. You can see that up until this point, that's linear growth, whereas as soon as you get here, that's very exponential growth. And supposedly, every increase and decrease here is actually linked to some kind of event where some article was shared or something happened. It's pretty cool. Like if you get closer and closer to understanding what actually causes these events. And so, okay, I'm making a mistake here. I'm just searching for COVID. You really want to like search for a lot of different things. Like for example, having COVID and corona and coronavirus. And what else? What else do things look for? Let's look for corona, see what comes up. I think those are the common things, right? Coronavirus. In one word, COVID, corona. I guess I could add coronavirus in 2 words, right? Basically, when you're doing Google Trends research, you want to have a lot of wide variety in the kind of things you're searching for. So, for example, COVID is the actual name of this version of the disease, but it's a coronavirus. So there's a period of time where people are just calling it corona before the information that this is the actual more accurate name is widespread and in usage. So you can't just rely on one term. You have to do a lot of different terms, right? So these are just search terms, but I can change these, right? And I can add more, right? But I should remove this one because you want to make sure that if you're comparing them, you're comparing search terms to search terms, okay? So this gives a more interesting picture, doesn't it? It's like more noticeable that there was a spike, a much more noticeable spike in January of this year of interest in COVID, specifically in coronavirus. That search term, and then that lowered, and for a long time it almost became, for a couple days it was as relevant as it was in the beginning of January. Like look at this. That's why it's important that when you're doing Google Trends research, you're not just searching for one search term. You want to think of the different ways that people search for stuff and compare it. Because in general, anytime you're looking at one metric, it's not as useful as if you're looking at multiple metrics. You usually need to understand what scale you're comprehending, and it's very hard to conceptualize the scale you're looking at if you're not comparing different things to each other, right? And so now you can see that it's actually like, basically, the graphs can't really grow more than this. So that's why it looks like interest went down here. Like you can see that it spiked and then it went down. All these graphs it went down except the blue one. So except for COVID, which is pretty funny. COVID actually is the most stable search term, so to speak. You can also see where regionally people are searching for different things, right? So comparing this one makes that not useful. So we're going to remove it and then look down. And you can see it's pretty stable actually across everywhere. That's really interesting. So one thing that's cool about dissemination, is that right? The spread of information is sometimes you can track when it's online spread versus geographical spread, because you can look at certain topics in Google Trends, and when you look at this map by subregion of the US, you'll actually see that specific regions are more popular. Like, for example, if I type Walmart and I compare it to Amazon, and I get rid of this, I gotta okay, we're good. Walmart, Amazon, okay. We can see here that there is actually a region in the US where more people search online for Walmart than Amazon, which is usually something that's caused by the physical world. The internet world tends to cause pretty much all regions to adapt at a similar pace or gain information at a similar pace, whereas the physical world, when information is spread, will cause different regions to have more access to information online, right? For example, regarding drop shipping, there's certain hotspots in the world where there's more drop shipping information spread out. So interest in drop shipping is noticeably higher there because there are individuals who actually started making the information accessible in a regional way, right? It's really interesting. Just to think about all this kind of stuff. I gotta switch back. Let me look at the comments. I'm all excited about just being able to flip this back and forth. And I got this dangly microphone thing. It's like I'm a real YouTuber. Look, it's got a shock mount. Not that that matters. I went with a more expensive microphone, but a less it feels cheaper build-wise, like it's lighter. But basically, my Yetis all died the same way. And I loved Yetis, and they are pretty durable, and I was putting them through a lot of abuse. But it was time for something new. And I'm pretty happy with this so far. I like that it just, like... It's cool. I like that it turns on. It's fun, it's useful. And there's no, like, awkward button. You just kind of tap onto it. So I like that. But it doesn't really need to be in view. It could just be, like, right there or something. This camera catches, like, everything, which is one of the reasons that I use it. Look at this room. It's reasonably clean. There's a pile of stuff right here that you can't see because I know that it's out of lens. It's great. It holds me accountable. Anyway. All right. Let's look at these comments. Okay. Yeah. Nice. There's a lot of stuff to read now. Okay. Paul says, I think a lot of people are going to watch maybe comedy videos to forget the misery in the real world. Me, for example, I can't watch travel logs since I know travel won't be possible for a long time. Yeah, that's interesting. It has affected travel so much. Oh, man. The complications of all of these restrictions is insane. Like, oh, God. Anyway, I need to keep reading. Rita said that Reyes did something fun a couple of days ago. Noah Mensis just said toilet paper and nothing else. Paul Meets World has a Corona cap on his head right now, the beer brand. Nice. You should just have a live stream where you're just wearing that hat and just sitting there. Maybe people would join. I feel like live streaming's going to be affected. More people are looking for people to talk about because everyone's like everyone can talk about this right now. We're all being affected by it. I'm in Latin America right now in a place that hasn't really experienced what you guys are going through, and I'm affected by it. It's crazy. All right. Rita says, does anyone have a television there, and is it sensationalist like US TV? So I don't actually know about how many people have televisions. I know that there are a lot of CRT televisions here. I don't know too much about the history of that. Like, I'd imagine that when CRT televisions were valuable and popular in the US, they were more popular there and less popular here, because that's historically how things tended to go. But once the transition to flat screens happened, very heavy, hard-to-sell things have a way of ending up in Latin America. Like, there's a whole bunch of school, like, buses here that are literally just repurposed U.S. buses that are bought at auction once, like, one thing goes wrong with the bus or a school shuts down or something. the buses are all sold at auctions, they're liquidated, and a lot of those buses end up being purchased and repurposed and used throughout Latin America, because you can literally just go to the US, buy a couple buses, come back and sell them for more, and have gotten them for a couple grand each. Or you could go to the US and buy your bus that way, right? Like, that's a thing bus drivers will do. It's interesting. It's its own economy. So I'd imagine that something similar probably happened with CRT TVs, because our society has a way of mass producing things to the point where the people who originally were interested in them are no longer interested in them, but our production hasn't noticed that yet, so it mass produces an excess of everything. Like, that's very relevant in cell phones. Like, on one hand, it's not, you don't need to get a new cell phone every year, but I'm glad that a bunch of people in the US are just getting phones every year, because it inevitably means that we're getting to a point where there's going to be 100 devices for every person, and that is going to just drastically increase the chance that these excess devices end up in the hands of people who wouldn't normally have them, because the other people perceive them as not worth much anymore. Like, we are creating so many devices that it's inevitable that at some point that'll happen. So once CRT TVs weren't as popular in the US because of flat screens, I could totally see that large amounts of them started being shipped, or the excess started being shipped around and produced or sent to Latin America. That would kind of match the history of some other heavier electronic items. But I don't know. I don't really know too much about the specific history of CRT TVs here. And I'm also a very detached person from this. Like, I have a TV, and it's for YouTube. Once I started watching YouTube, I love that if I watch TV, it's because I want to learn about something or watch a specific thing that I have decided I want to see. And I sit down and I watch it with purpose. And then the things that watch after it are related to what I was watching. And that is really amazing. It's really, I think, probably one of the most formative parts of my life now, because I'm in a very different phase. I used to not have enough information, but now I have so much information about so many things that I don't think of like, oh, if something's possible, or oh, if it's doable. It really, my brain is just like, anything that you want to do is doable if you educate yourself and put the time into doing it, and you can probably educate yourself on YouTube. And once you get to the point where your obstacle is that you're interested in it but other people aren't interested in it, that you know, oh, guess what? YouTube answers that problem for you. It's insane. It just sets you in a position where not only do you have access to all the information in the world, basically, but you also have access to other people who are very interested in this information as well. And as far as humans go, you can think that it's important to develop yourself and become really talented. You want to be the best at something. But realistically, these drives are quite weak. They're not the things that instill great, amazing things in people. What really ends up motivating people is other people. Basically, a team of dumb humans can get more done and accomplish greater things than one really, really, really smart person who works alone. You're better off working with other people. The problem is that so many of us haven't experienced being around people who we actually like and want to be around. Like, I used to think I was much more introverted because I was usually just frustrated with people. But really, I see now, I was just frustrated with people complaining about shit and not fixing it. And really, anytime you complain about anything in your life, you are saying, I don't want to fix this problem. I'm not going to fix this problem. That's the act of complaining, and it puts you in a mentality that degrades your relationships around you. But anyway, my point here was that teams of people get more done than anything else. And anything great in history, you can think that, oh, this person discovered this, and you have this picture that they were just alone over a desk their whole life doing it. And that's what, like, our kind of scientific and weird machisto society kind of wants you to believe that there were these individual people, and they're the ones who did it all. But really, those people wouldn't exist without a whole bunch of other people influencing them and interacting with them. And if you grow up like this, thinking that there's these great individuals who do everything, you lose sight of some very important things about human nature. And you guarantee that you're going to walk down a path of depression and loneliness. You're going to be more likely to have problems with suicidal thoughts and all this kind of intense kind of introspective trauma, right? You're way better off working with a team of people. But if you're like most people in the world, you came into this world, you were birthed into an experience where you were not exposed to people who were super similar to you. Maybe you're always different than people, or you are just not feeling like the people around you understand. Maybe you have a couple friends. This is where YouTube is such an amazing catalyst, because you can use YouTube, just put yourself out there, expose yourself, make videos, and boom, the whole world could potentially get to know you, see you, interact with you, and reach out. And I can tell you, I'm sure if you're watching this, you've probably heard me say this over and over again, but my life wasn't changed by earning money. My life was changed by meeting a couple of people through YouTube. There were a handful of moments over a 3-year period that took me from a barista at Starbucks to a person who has all of their bills paid by work they've done in the past. And I haven't worked an amount that's made me proud. I'm not super happy about that. I'm learning, I'm developing. I'm not saying I'm at my best. But now, consistently, I've been able to live a life where I don't have to be worried about things because everything's taken care of, because I've focused on using the internet and leveraging my passions and interests to be able to pay my future self's problems. That wasn't a hard work thing. I want to tell you it was. I want to tell you that I worked really hard all the time and I was working 8, 10, 12-hour days, but I wasn't. A lot of it, I was lazy, or I was scared, or I was emotional, or I was distracting myself being around other people, and I didn't have a lot of diligence. And to this day, I'm working on being more diligent. And like this week, I've worked like 4 to 6 hours each day. That is unheard of, to give you some perspective, right? And I'm telling you this because a lot of you are more diligent than me. And that's what's so weird for me, is seeing how most people are currently living in a scenario where they're working more for less and the work isn't related to what they enjoy. And the reality is they can change their life just by incorporating the internet and content creation, whether it's YouTube or courses or blogs. Basically, even if you don't earn any money for 2 years, imagine that you had started writing a blog about your life and started creating digital products 5 years ago. What would you be doing now? What kind of stuff would you be making? Would you be in a position where all of this corona stuff and whatever doesn't really affect you because you're not earning your money from unreliable work? And I'm only saying unreliable because it's in the physical world, and everything in the physical world is unreliable, right? And the digital world isn't as reliable, but you can stack it. So you got like 100 unreliable things, which gives you the illusion of reliability, right? It's like banks. If everyone withdrew all their money out of the banks at the same time, we'd all be screwed. But and technically that could happen, but the reality is that doesn't happen in practice in the real world. And there's tons of things that prevent it from happening. It's just like that. All right, done with my whatever motivational rant thing there. Now I'm going to look at these comments again. Oh yeah, think about, that's pretty much it. Okay, cool. Yeah, Paul. So Paul said here in Belgium, it's on the news every day, and the number of people getting sick is going up. Yeah, that's definitely true. I can show you. Well, should I show? I guess it's okay. So if you go to, let's see, coronavirus death, there's some charts that you can look at, and also some crazy videos to watch, right? But basically, where's the charts? Charts. Nope. Bum, 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 bum. Ah, here it is. Alright, so this is like almost at 10,000. I'm just gonna say 10,000 because by the time anyone listens to this, I'm sure 8 more people will probably die. It's sad to say that, but it's reality. So yeah, this is another example of one of those things that should bring things into perspective for people. Am I showing? Okay, I gotta show the chart. That's right. So this is just showing how many cases and how it's growing, and also how many deaths there have been in the world. Okay? So basically, no matter where you are, it's very likely that if you look at this period, this is March 5th, right? 5 days ago. And then this period is March 18th. So in as little as 2 weeks, the amount of people doubled, right? So that basically will keep happening. But the effects of quarantining kind of look like that. So what we're about to see is how effective will all of these measures that the countries are taking be. And it's really interesting because there's a lot of different case studies you can look into if you want to learn more about this. Like, so there was a cruise ship, right? And in this cruise ship, a large number of people were infected because they were quarantined within the cruise ship instead of being removed from the cruise ship, I guess. Or basically the whole cruise ship was cut off, and they did something fundamentally wrong, okay? And a lot of people got sick. So in this specific case, one of the concerns with coronavirus testing accuracy is that it's possible to have it and have symptoms that are normal. Like, we've all had coronavirus before, and I keep saying coronavirus. I shouldn't say that, because the thing people are concerned about is COVID, not coronavirus. If you've had a cold, let's say you've had 10 colds in your life, right? Every time you get a cold, there's a 33% chance it was caused by a coronavirus. So that means that you rolled a 1 in 3 dice 10 times in your life. You've probably had a coronavirus at some point before. Different than COVID, right? This is relevant. And I'm saying this so I remember to call it COVID, not coronavirus, because if I say coronavirus, I'm being inaccurate. And it's not good to be inaccurate. It's better to be accurate, right? So there's cases that you can look at where the rates are different, right? So you should look at the Diamond Princess. You should look at Taiwan. Taiwan, corona, or COVID. Taiwan is interesting because if we look at Taiwan on a map, just so you guys know, Taiwan is very, very, very close to China. There is distance, right? But there is a lot of transactions and commerce and all sorts of things in between Taiwan and China. So because China was the first place to have COVID and to have large amounts of people with it, it's interesting to see and learn about Taiwan's response to coronavirus and how they're handling it. I encourage you to look more into this. because it's interesting, because it starts to make you see that the early response of different governments and people and us, really, like even basic citizens, like literally you washing your hands once can mean that someone doesn't get sick, like butterfly effect wise. That's real. It's crazy. Like, we literally are in a position right now where we can contribute in a meaningful way as much as governments and as much as authority or corporations with loads of money. It's super unusual. Really, really, really unusual circumstance. But it's important that you look into this from different countries' perspectives as well, because it'll give you more insight into what's going on. I personally don't think watching the news is a very good way of learning about stuff. You kind of want to be getting interested in learning about things while they're not the things that are blown up by fad, because fad blown up information is just a little bit more likely to be wrong, maybe a lot more likely to be wrong than information that you find is true after you've compared multiple different places on the internet. Like, it's still possible to compare different places and be looking at 3 fad websites and they all say the same thing. That's why you have to be so careful with being aware of once something's a fad, because if you think about it, as soon as something is shared on a major news host or whatever, like, it becomes a fad, and then it shows up in like really quickly. It's duplicated, triplicated all over the internet by different places. So it makes it easier to think everyone's talking about it, when really a really popular person just said one thing and then a bunch of people are copying that info. It's different when the info is distributed that way. And in our generation in particular, I think, or my generation in particular, I guess, I understand now that a lot of the people who watch my content are older, which is another thing. I don't know if I've talked about this too much, but I used to think that more people were interested in online income who were younger, my age, just because I assumed that people who have had more experience with technology would be more interested in using that technology to earn money. But I see now that that's an incorrect assumption, and the reality is that people my age are often still caught in the whole, you need to be in college, you need to be doing this. Very few of us are able to be okay with leaving that to pursue something else. Those of us who do are usually exceptions. It becomes more and more likely that you've dropped out of the college system, so to speak, as you get older, just because more years have passed, right? But I think in my generation, that causes people to not be in a position where they're looking at other options. And usually they won't pursue online income unless they're looking at other options, because you don't just like get born into the world and go to high school and then get taught how to earn money on the internet. Like, that's not a thing, right? Online income isn't a class, even though it's the most useful class that could exist. So it's tricky. But the reality appears to be that most of the people interested in online income, or people who pursue my content at least, are actually older. They're either with children or retiring. These are the 2 biggest demographics that cause them to be with children or thinking about retiring. I guess I can be more specific. With children, with the desire to spend more time with their children, these 2 components are important, and also thinking about retirement. I guess that's more specific. The 2 more common kinds of individuals that I tend to interact with are. And this was a learning experience for me, because I definitely just assumed that it wouldn't be that way, but I've been shown that that's not true. That's not the reality, right? It's quite interesting. Oh man, I've been talking my face off. What's going on? Cool. Alright, guys. Any of you want to say anything? I'm about to end. It looks like I've been laggy and stuff. I apologize. Anyway. Awesome. I'm tired. Oh, it's only 3 o'clock though. I got a raid tonight. I play World of Warcraft, and I raid every Tuesday and Thursday. We're doing Blackwing Lair. No, actually that was on Tuesday. Today we're doing Molten Core. Molten Core is really easy. because we've done it like 20 times. But still fun. I really enjoy raiding. It makes like finding gear and stuff cool. Oh, a comment! Yo. Let's see. Alright, Paul. Thanks for commenting, man. Great chat with you briefly. See you next time. Ciao, everybody.